So for the edit this week, I'm just going to share my screen, and it's mostly just been let's see, it's been this thing here. So this is mostly what I've been working on, besides of course the meetings and feedback and all of that stuff. So I have now all of the shots all the way through, and I did make a version where the snail kind of is a bigger snail and sheds his shell. It was an experiment. It didn't strike me as weird, but I wanted to also try this version where he has like a smaller shell, and I don't know, when you play it real time, I feel like you kind of get away with it, but I have to kind of get the feedback from the team and see if they felt it was weird. As you can see, also I've been like kind of playing around a little bit with kind of camera movement, just because it feels like there's more urgency and more like he's lost control of the situation if you allow it to be a little bit more handheld. The fat guy here is here, the kind of temp version of him. This was, as I assumed, no problem, no biggie. I mean, this really is just a massive cheat, of course. And then this is like me trying out, okay, what if I just like duplicate a lot of these snails? What does that look like? And I don't remember how many there are, but it kind of opens up the conversation of how much should he be covered, and how much is enough, and how do we do it. But yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting some feedback from Matthew about all of this. But this is basically my week. Thank you very much, and see.
I think, no, actually, I have stuff to show for Ellie, which is that I got some feedback from Rick to improve the way the lower head squash works. I think part of this already happened last week, but the additional thing this week, I hope I'm not showing this for a second time, but oh, not that one, this one. Okay, I'm confused now because I don't know if I showed this off already or not, but this thing now works with this thing, which looks like this. So yeah, that's a thing that exists, and there was a bug with scale inheritance, which is maybe fixed now, so you can scale her without, yeah, except this one. This I'm working on right now. Don't worry about it. And then yes. Oh yeah, I think this is also from this week. The fanny pack and the shorts now try to get some automatic correction with her movement, at least in the simple cases. In more in-between cases, it's still a bit dodgy, like here. But if you just rotate it on one axis, then it works. For the more dodgy cases, it can be improved, but I'm not even sure yet if this is something that the animators will want to use or not. So we'll see. But yeah. And then that's it for Ellie. But then there's also Bird. Bird now has some big, huge, giant lattices for the wing, and some new controls that rotate each individual type of wing all together. So that works, and I guess this has been improved a little bit, but probably not noticeable. And I think some of this might be new. And also I got some feedback to make the first couple of feathers stick closer to the body, so I did that. And this is for Bird. And now the most important part, we have a snail, and he exists, and he can look at you and kind of smile, but it's like it takes some effort because it doesn't have a proper rig, just a very dirty, quick rig, since he pretty much only makes an expression in one scene. So, but I mean, hey, it works. He can blink as of today, as of a few hours ago. Kind of blink, but again, this is very quick and dirty, so needs some corrections, manual work, like that. Yeah, you get the idea. But it functions. And I think that's it for me this week.
This is a render from the farm, and nothing is flickering, which is awesome. That means that currently the flickering bugs seem to be resolved. And I guess I have to shout out to Sebastian Paborg for looking into this issue and then fixing it and diving into the manure of this whole thing. Anyway, so that's just that. Then I started off by just rendering the expression tests that Rick was animating on Rex. And this is just a simple preview lighting to see how Rex is actually deforming, which is, I think it's looking super nice. And then most of the beginning of the week was actually spent on working on a comparison of the fire simulation and the sculpted animated fire. And this is an early version of that. And so we kind of settled on the animation style of this film, which is on 2s, and the simulation or fire and effects would happen either on 1s or on 2s on top of that. So that would mean that we have to simulate something that moves on 2s and skips every other frame. And so that was a little bit the test of this whole thing. Here was another test to see what happens if I just spline that animation on 1s and then actually hit, run the simulation. But I'm not sure if you can see it. It's a little bit weird because the emitter is tracking ahead of what is moving here. So this looks a bit strange. But the surprising thing is that it actually did move well enough to not be too distracting. And then I tried to do a fair comparison, so Matthew can also compare the sculpted fire, which was done by Rick, with the simulated fire, and then we can find out a good compromise of what to pursue. So this was the render of that. So this is the sculpted fire that you saw last week, which is, it just has a very simple shader here, but I guess you get the idea, also for the environment to get a sense of how it feels together. And this is, I hope, yeah, this is the simulated fire on top of that. And I hope this is going to give us a good base for comparing the two effects and then ultimately deciding which one to go for. Okay, so the rest of this week I spent on the set that where Hjalti is doing the layout now. So this is his layout, and this is the death scene of Rex and Victoria. And so I just started bringing in some trees and mostly deleting everything, and then trying to figure out what the set is going to be. And my idea was that everything kind of would be drawing your eye to the spider web. So you're with the roots and everything, you're kind of getting sucked into the spider web visually. We don't see that much, but I think just to like for the whole location, it makes it very horror film-esque. This is the layout animation on top of that. So you can see this is the branch where Rex is hitting the sprites. And then here in the background, that's where Victoria is being caught by the spiders. And you can notice that some of the trees have these holes around, and that was just me trying to make sense of this branch that Rex is hitting. It looks a little bit strange, like an octopus, but yeah, the idea is that all the trees kind of around this place have these holes, so the spiders would be living in the trees, and then they would spin their webs outside and then catch everything that runs around there. And I think, oh wait, I have one more thing. It's almost not worth showing, but I did a render of the set. It doesn't look like anything because there's no treetops right now, but that maybe ties a little bit into what Simon was also doing this week. But yeah, that was my week.
So this week, I mainly continued with working on the critters. So this is the current lineup of all of them together. all of the sculpted critters. At the start of the week, I was uploading some more videos on the cloud, doing some cloud content. But then I continued working on the spider. So this was the initial sculpt. I did some tests on just trying out various mouth shapes because we wanted to see how we could improve the emotional range of the spider. But it started to go away from the initial spider design too much. Eventually, we landed back on the A version, so we're gonna go with the fangs on the mouth, which should be enough. And this is a turntable of the spider sculpt. So the patch on the back also got a bit of refinement, but overall it's still pretty simple. Mostly exactly the spider that I did in blocking. There's also the ladybug, which also just got a little bit more polish, still kept the same simple shapes. There were two more tests being done, one of just how the ladybug would open its wings for flying. So this shape over here was overall more rounded, simplified. I think the overall body can be kept pretty simple. We can add a little bit of detail in the shading and texturing. And the wing itself could be just as simple as just grease pencil smear frames, just keeping it very cartoony and simple. There was also one last little test of just checking out how the ladybug looks like if it's like sitting in the hand of Elder Sprite, all cute. And that's basically all of that. After that, I did a bit more of cleanup on the butterfly. That one's also pretty simple. The only things we needed to find out was how the butterfly looks like after one of them is being badly burned and looking all sad, and then is being fixed by one of the sprites. So this is essentially the fixed version with just one leaf being glued on. Maybe there could be a scene where we like paint on the dots again, but that's extra. So it would be by default missing the dots on the leaf. So after that, on Thursday, I actually did a stream on the Blender Studio channel of taking the latest blocking of the chunky snail, which I like kind of like push to the side so I can work on that live and work on it more so we have the chunky snail, which more closely represents the concept. I did a bit more cleanup afterwards of just putting a bit more detail in there and cleaning up the shapes more. So this is pretty much the final sculpt. I also have a turntable. It's this one. So just love how it looks from the side. And then, yeah, we had some more discussions today on the size of the chunky snail because we tried to keep it kind of similar to the regular snail, but it just did not look like the storyboard drawing. So we increased the size by like 40% and we landed on pretty much this. So in comparison, this was the original size, and then we could bump it up by 40%, and it's now this. Yes, and that is essentially it. Now we have the full lineup sculpted.
So this is what I did this morning. Basically, it's the shot of the bird just landing on the branch. I also had like some back and forth with Hjalti about like the what is gonna be supposed the hero pose of the bird. So I can also share that. So this is what I had at the beginning, and it's gonna be something more like in this position. So yeah, that I will start to make. After that, I did a new version of the bird by hitting that pose. It's still a work in progress, but maybe you don't see too much difference. But So for the moment, it's that I still have to work on it. I guess Monday will be finished, and then I could go to the next shot.
Yeah. So beginning of this week, I was still working a whole lot on Ellie because I didn't really have time before to really focus on everything that has to be done to transfer the shading to the new topology. But there was still a lot of UV unwrapping to be done, so I did that, and now it's fully unwrapped. Yeah, she has a lot of different intricate accessories and stuff like that, which not all characters have, so it was a little bit more work, and because of the way I'm shading this, I had to do a bunch more UV unwrapping, but less painting. And yeah, this is just a showcase of the skin deformation technique that I'm using with the different UV maps from the base mesh that I transferred to make it a little bit more natural. I showed that for Rex before. Yes, and it's still not fully polished, but I rendered out a turntable of Ellie, how it is right now. There's still some stuff to do, but yeah, ignore the flipping fanny pack strap in the background. Yeah, I just rendered this out today before the meeting, before the weekly. Other than that, today also I recorded some, I don't know if you can hear audio from what I'm playing, but this has a voiceover, so I recorded this earlier today about the fake anisotropy in Eevee that I quickly set up just to upload it to the cloud and just explain to people how it works, so they can download the node group and use it, and also understand a little bit what goes into it. And yeah, just for some cloud content. And then also I worked this week on putting together a color palette in the color library that we have. So we're using a color library blend file, which contains all the colors that we're using. Currently only for the environment, but I set it up for the cast as well, because Vivien put together this painting with all the different colors for all the different characters, bringing the colors all closer together to have a better composition. And to make this a little bit more uniform and centralized, I put it all into this library file with all the color ramps and put together a little bit of a setup to have some control over how it's displayed and to see it all nicely together. Actually, I have a more up-to-date version where I also recorded something for the cloud to just explain what goes into this. And yeah, so this is for the cast and for the environment, just to have it all together. And it can all be adjusted in this file. And also, Andy was showing this earlier with his render, where we want to have some variation for the night scenes. So there's a slider in here as well where you can change. Let me find a good position in the video where you can change the just fade between the different versions for the color palettes at daytime or nighttime or anything in between if we need that for the time in the movie where it's just transitioning. And I just set it up in a way where you have this settings node group, which is just a global variable, just an override of the fade between them, so we can just set them in the lighting files, and that's this variable that's going to be just determining what the color palette is in that shot. And yeah, other than that, just a bunch of geometry nodes stuff. So yeah, geometry nodes is finally released now since yesterday, so that's a big milestone. But yeah, I got nothing to specifically show for that right now. And that's it.
So on Monday, I was at the office together with Julien and Isel, and we made a beautifully detailed planning of our work on the asset browser and the post library. And that is what I've been working on this week, apart from Blender ID, email issues, and other stuff that's not interesting. So this is a screenshot of what the asset browser looks like now. I added code to actually make thumbnails for poses. So it renders through the scene camera because you're animating towards the camera anyway. So yeah, that'll probably be all set up. And you can configure what it looks like with matcaps and everything if you select the workbench engine. After this, I also had some
also added a way for other editors to set what is the active one in the asset browser, the active asset. So you can click on a button that now finds your asset, which will become handy once I smooth out the whole pose creation flow. So you can click on a button, create pose, and that automatically selects it in the asset browser. So then you can immediately set the name and the tags and everything else.
So I've been looking into our troubles with green and the visibility of the sprites in the environment. And I created this whole matrix of green, giving us options of how to make the sprites stand out in the very lush green environment. And I've been making these paintings just to explore color harmony and moods. And then I moved on to drawing and preparing the painting for the Sprite village. And I think we will actually get what we wanted. And it will look really busy with a lot of sprites and lots of activities and decoration. Yeah. That's it for me.